Yeah, now we're getting into
now we're getting into
segue
some
things.
stuff.
So, actually, I'll just segue into it if
this works.
that works for you.
Excellent.
All right, cool. Hey, welcome to After Action Studios. We've got a couple special guests here today with us talking about Street Medicine KC. So once again, your hosts, Jay and Joey. We're here with, oh yeah, I keep forgetting that we're recording this or videotaping it.
Oh, this video right now, buddy.
Yeah, completely keep forgetting that we're doing that. But anyways, so we got a couple special guests in here today talking more about what we're doing with other nonprofit organizations, other veteran service organizations. So I'm going to kind of let them come in here and introduce themselves, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they do. So
perfect. I'll have the lady start first, please, with her name. And
I'm Shannon Bennett, so I'm a therapist by nature, and just helping SMKC with the therapeutic part and supervision of other students that come in under that.
Yeah, so she's been the director on and off for the last few years, and for mental health part, and that's what's going on with her. I'm Jay Bennett, executive director and founder of Street Medicine KC. A little bit about Street Medicine KC or SMKC is that we started about 5 years ago, just hitting the streets, wanting to provide kind of a connection and collaboration with other organizations, really focusing on the mental health part of what's happening, because a lot of data out there for people that have been collecting data for the last 30 years or so is that most of the issues in the streets are mental health, not even substance abuse, right? So we kind of started that way, teamed up with a few other people, and our organization grew. We created a 401c a little 4 years ago, 501c a few years ago, and went out. I think our main purpose for what I'd like to discuss today here is this, especially when it comes to the VSO part, is that the first year we served 422 people, and 8% of those were veterans, right? The next year it was flat 10%. And the third year was 12.83% veterans. Now, those numbers are supposed to be going down. So either we're doing a better job finding them, or there's more out there.
The system,
right? The system is doing that, right? So I'm not faulting the system. I'm not putting blame on anyone here. I'm just saying these are the numbers and the data that's out there. So that's kind of like where we keep going to, and that's who we are.
Yeah, no, I completely hear you on that. I think it's going to be more the sort. I mean, I think it kind of goes along with the COVID testing. Now that you're testing more, you're seeing more results, but you're on the ground more, so you're seeing a lot more veterans that are out there. Because, once again, there's a lot of veterans that are on the streets that don't, you really wouldn't know about. And, a lot of those veterans that I've seen on the streets, they could care less. They're not part of the VA system or anything else like going through there. But I can see the mental health being a huge aspect of, why you could be predispositioned or whatever that may be to being on the streets. I'd be kind of curious to kind of hear from your guys' perspective, mental health wise, of what that really is like on the streets for them and why you kind of see it from there. Because, people really, they see that mental health and homelessness kind of goes hand in hand together, but, really kind of why is that? That's what I'm kind of curious about, because you do see that person, yelling down the streets or kind of whatever that, what it is. And so how do we... I'm really kind of curious about that, like why is it that we see more mental health issues on the homeless side than, if that makes any sense.
Do you
want to go ahead?
Well, so I will say, just the first thing I thought of when you said that, so I've been in the field like 20 years. I would say one of the biggest differences between somebody that lands on the street and somebody that does not is their support system. That's what I've noticed year after year, and even more so. I mean, you can have, patient A and patient B, same symptoms, it's just, do they have somebody to fall back on? Do they have somebody that's going to be there for them?
Right. Absolutely.
I've seen that's the biggest factor, one of the biggest factors.
Right. Totally agree. And I'll say that's one of the top 2 or 3 factors, period, bar none. For us, in my thought and my lens is this, is that I'll go low history, right? So 1982, the administration went ahead and cut a lot of the funding for mental support. Right. Prior in our country, we used to have sale asylums and all this good stuff, right? Where they were horribly managed and horribly done, but we had some place to place people. Yeah. And some people were not even.
And the reason that those went away is because it was towards the push of having these people gain more independence.
Right.
This is the Reagan era?
Yes. Right. So 1982 has happened. So the thing, what they did is they cut the funding by 90%. Instead of fixing the problem, they just cut the funding from the problem, saying we're going to end it, right? When that happened, these people were put on the streets, sent to the streets, and that's where our mental health issues really blew up.
Yeah.
Prior to that, a lot of the issues that came with homelessness were alcohol. I mean, like 95% was alcohol, right? And a small percentage was using drugs and et cetera. But now it's predominantly mental health issues from schizophrenia and the rest of it that move on. For instance, 4 years ago, it's from the NIMH, so National Institute of Mental Health. 68% of individuals that are homeless have been diagnosed with at least 4 different mental health issues.
Oh, wow. Jesus.
Imagine if those were medical. Right?
Well, so that can be like co-occurring mental health and substance abuse.
No, that's
Just mental health diagnoses.
Just mental health diagnosis, not substance abuse, right?
And the substance abuse comes along with trying to cull everything else.
Self-medicating.
Self-medicating.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
you?
Oh yeah. You're
I mean,
kinda going through
I've
there.
been there.
Right.
I mean, luckily
Right.
enough that I didn't go down all the way down the rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
I've come out of the military, and VA was giving me pain pills. Fuck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got deep.
Yeah.
But I came out of it, and that was the worst withdrawal scared the shit out of me.
Mm.
So I'm so glad I don't know any of that anymore. But I can see how it gets way out of
Yeah.
hand.
Well, and sometimes it's easier just to get drugs off the street than it is to continuously
Oh, for
follow,
sure.
follow
Oh, yeah.
up with a provider. It's just easier.
And
Yeah.
this was during the time, well, this past decade has been huge with pill farms.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see how that got out of hand too.
Right.
I've watched this get out of hand since I got back in the States back in '98.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When the pills were popping, I was like, "What is this? Ritalin?" I didn't know what it was. Right? I never messed with it, but I saw these kids on it. You know, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Wow." You know, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I've always been kind of curious about. I mean, you know, especially with veterans, yeah, I think there's some more issues that are going on with it of going through there. But we kind of talked about it just a second ago, more about the support systems and structures
Yes.
that kind of go into place.
Yes.
And what I'm kind of curious about is, you know, is it really a fault of the system of veterans getting out and not having that support systems going through there? Because, I mean, let's be honest, where the military recruit from is out of broken homes and inner city. So,
Yeah.
you know, you get out
Right.
of the military and you come
Right.
back out, and now you have PTS. You know, you might have already had, you know, predisposition to or to whatever, you know, before joining the military.
Right.
Now it's exacerbated going through there. And then you're just kind of left to your own devices. So, you know, because something that I've seen, you know, kind of trend of what I think of is, you know, really kind of those first few years out of service, you really start getting into those bad habits. You really let your PTS or your depression or anxiety, whatever, built up on it. You lose your support because, you know, you're couch surfing, you're doing whatever else, you burn bridges or whatever else, and then you're up on the street, you know, and so that's where it's just kind of like, you know, that support structure that you guys are building, especially with your new facility that you're kind of doing from there is, you know, how do we build this external support system that you might not have other had? And so I know you guys are kind of combating that with.
So thanks for bringing that up, Joey. Joey, so this Saturday, Street Medicine KC, along with about 7 other organizations, are going to be moving into 1444 East 8th Street, and it's a community center. We are leading it as of right now, but the VA will be there providing their outreach services. Rediscover will be there, hopefully providing services directly for VSOs and veteran services organizations. We have care for the caregivers who are also going to be there doing mental health, and they actually get their key tomorrow from me, right? It's got a text today like, where's the key? So you get the key. So the key thing is that focusing around not just mental health and for the homeless in general, but also for veterans. Now, something I want to bring up a little earlier we were talking about is that there are a lot of veterans out there that are housed, right? We help them get through the SSVF program to get housed. There's still no support, right? Robbie. So I can go on and on about names and individuals that have no support when they got out, like kind of you were saying, Joey, but now we got them housed, then what, right? So what's the next step?
Let me interrupt. So when we say support, there are services out there. There are agencies out there. I think it's the kind of support. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I guess I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah, say it. Go
So
for it.
the people that I've come across that, you know, have like a case manager or psychiatrist at the VA, they just don't like working with the VA. I don't know what it is, but they prefer getting their psychiatric services outside at the VA.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is.
Well, I think there's a stigma with the VA that there's so many of us and so little of them, and they could care less. I mean, that's a big stigma.
On top of that, historically, the VA and veterans,
shit the bed.
ever since we're talking about 40 years here, 40 plus years since the Vietnam era, on a minimum, there hasn't been real services for VAs, and the government hasn't caught up for one reason or another. So that's just a unfortunate fact of life.
Yeah. Well, and I think a big thing that I've seen in the past, though, is a lot of veterans just don't want to seek help from the VA because whether that's going to exacerbate symptoms, that is coming back of like, okay, now it's walking into, well, even for me, walking into a VA hospital, it's just like, okay, everything's starting to flood back because now it's like, okay, now this is a place where it's really kind of aggregated into that thing of like, okay, I really don't want to mess with this because I don't want to really kind of touch on that subject because, yeah, you're going through mental health things, but, you're kind of just skirting around the subject and there's like, oh, that's where I kind of want to go to outside of this because, the other thing, too, that I've seen with veterans, too, is it's easy to get locked up at the VA. It's easy to get locked up. And that's where, I've seen problems with veterans too that, hey, I'm just going in because, I am having, a mental breakdown or, just having an anxiety attack or whatever. Yeah. Then next thing they know, they're locked up in psych ward for 3 days under that. Right. And it's just like, then I've seen it's actually even worse because they're like, well, I was just kind of coming in, just wanting to talk and now I'm locked up.
Right. For the VA, to give the VA its credit, it's doing the best it can with the money it has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's some pennies on the dollar, right? Mm-hmm. But they're doing the best they can. And you jumped on something there, Joey, that I wanted to bring up. Like, it's almost, and I just thought about it. It feels like as if, you're in a bad relationship, right? And then you leave that bad relationship, right? And then all of a sudden the bad relationship, come back to you. I can help you talk to you, right? It's like, wait a minute, why am I going back to the DOD?
Feels like a trap.
Feels like a trap. Why am I still with the DOD? You know what I mean? So I can understand that too, because I really don't want to badmouth anybody unless it's deserved.
Yeah.
And but I think that's exactly right, Joey. It's like, why am I going back to this old relationship of getting my services from you, where I feel like as if I got the trouble that I'm in because of you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
We were talking about
Catch 22.
Yeah.
We were talking about this on the last podcast. They really kind of screw you up mentally as soon as you get out with putting all these different psychological medicines on you. And sometimes your body can take it, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it costs $300 to do genetic testing to see if you're compatible with anything. Mm-hmm. Why not spend the money on that and not just farm you out to whatever?
Man, you make so much sense right there. And I wish there was genetic testing for everyone. Here's the problem with that. People feel that there's already a push into too much information.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's a little fear about, now you know everything about me that can impact my insurance, my life insurance policy, It goes down another rabbit hole. But so there's a little fear there on that. But you're absolutely right, man. That'd be a great thing that you're able to go ahead and get that testing from not only just the medications, but your diet. And et cetera, right? And they have tests right here in Overland Park, and I've been waiting to get $300 to do it, and I haven't gotten it yet. Because I'm a nonprofit. but I really wanted to take it so I can have more of a balance on myself and fight my own anxieties.
Exactly.
Right? Fight my own age that I'm fighting with at the age of 50 right now, with arthritis setting. It's like, what can I do? What can I change? What can I do in my diet? So you're absolutely right when it comes to genetic testing. That can really help.
Yeah. Well, and I think a big thing, too, that subject that we're kind of talking on is, to me, when it comes down to mental health, there's no one right answer for it, Sure. And that's a big thing of what I wanted to do with After Action Network is, after I tried to take my own life in 2009, and then I got into a treatment facility, and then I started exploring a lot of different alternative therapies and treatments. I fell in love with a lot of that stuff that was going through, and then I got out and then go to the VA, and then it's just textbook answers. Hey, here's your prescription, come in and talk, come to your group or whatever else that's going through there. And it's just, that's not really kind of working for me. And so that's when, I really started seeking outside sources. And so that's where I, appreciate what you all are trying to do, and especially with the facility that you guys are creating, is not just having a textbook answer, that you're actually seeing people in for individually of what they're doing rather than, hey, we're just blanking at everybody across the board. Well, how do we actually sit you down, talk to you guys, kind of go through that? So what is kind of like the process that you guys go through with street medicine on, hey, I'm, homeless veteran or a homeless person that's coming in there, what's really kind of the process of what you guys do to assess and, really start creating that support structure? Because it's not just a, one-off thing that you're trying to do, is really kind of bring them into house. So.
No, everything starts with a simple intake, and our intake form's about 5 minutes long at most, right? And it does have those key questions on the first page, for instance, of emergency contact and email address. The emergency contact can tell you, just like you said about your support system, if you don't have anyone there, written down as emergency contact. We know there's an issue, so we start making an assessment from there, from the intake, from case management, about mental health services need to be provided. Also, the email address is kind of the social determinants of health. If you don't have that, you can't have a cell phone. I mean, not working one anyway, right? And so those are type of things that we do. We start there. From there, the mental health approach that I've tried to grab is that there are 3 or 4 different types of, I'm going to mess this up, DBT, EMDR, right? And a couple other
types of therapy.
Types of therapy.
Yeah,
Right? Types of therapy.
you put that in layman's terms?
Yeah.
What those are? Yeah, that'd be great.
So different types of therapies. One is like cognitive behavioral, that'd be CBT. You said DBT, that's the dialectical behavioral therapy, which those two are kind of related. And then EMDR, I'm probably going to mess this up. It's eye desensitization movement something.
Rapid movement.
Right, yeah.
So
So
is that the
yes.
Okay.
So it works
lights.
it's using your eyes and it works in reprogramming thoughts basically or deep trauma memories.
Okay.
Right. And so what I've done is gotten multiple therapists with those disciplines. So when someone steps in, there's something there for them, right? So it's not cookie cutter.
Yeah.
1, 2, providing that thought and idea behind it has been kind of our substance. Last year, February, we were approached by Jackson County Mental Health Levy. Now, they pass out about $11 million a year for those individuals that are doing that are providing mental health services and give them a pilot, start with the pilot program. And we were accepted in the pilot program last year, July. Unfortunately, we did not set up properly for our billing and our other stuff and people leaving and coming, that the structure was not set up properly. And I think now that we have that, we're able to do that. One of the key things about mental health therapy is this. It's not a 50-minute session in your chair, right, talking with your therapist. Right? Some of the things we do are 5-10 minutes therapy in the streets, right? That's not billable, but it makes that change and start. So these are some of the things that we're taking from the new type of mental health that's being provided out there, that it doesn't have to be 50 minutes. It's not regulated like, okay, your time's up and I get to bill this, right? Because that whole entire structure is not set up from the provider. That's set up from the payer. So it's therapy. You see what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
So providing therapy, whether it's an hour and a half sitting with someone or 15 minutes, that's what it should be, and that's how we address it. So if someone wants to come in for 5-10 minutes, cool, man. Grab a seat.
Yeah, and I think kind of the philosophy that you take, and that's kind of my therapeutic approach too, very person-centered.
Yes.
Which I think that's basically what SMKC is.
Yes.
Which makes a huge difference.
Yeah, you don't make anybody feel like a cattle. Like cattle just being
hell
herded.
no.
Right.
No,
That's
no.
great.
No, it's concierge medicine for the poor, right? I don't know if you guys know what concierge medicine, but concierge medicine is usually someone paying $10,000, $20,000 a year for their doctor to see them whenever they want to, right?
Yeah.
And provide services. So for us, it's concierge medicine. We're wrap around services as best as we can to give this individual some hope.
Yeah. So what does it look like from, the person on the street, like, by the time, whether you're doing outreach on the street, by the time they get into the clinic, then, kind of starting that process of, them walking through the door. Obviously, they do the intake stuff of what they have, then seeing the mental health, and then kind of going beyond that. But really kind of going back to where we were at was, what's really kind of the approach that you've guys seen from really just being on the street from it?
Right.
Because one thing that I've noticed when I've done homeless stuff in the past as well too was, it's hard to kind of get these people in through the door. They get kind of set in their ways. I mean, you and I had conversations off to the side about this, like some of the homeless camps that are out there. Just some of them get used to the lifestyle, and it's kind of how do we break away from that lifestyle to, make you a healthier, more productive member of society of what's going through. So really kind of coming from the outreach perspective, I mean, what's kind of best ways or practices, I guess, that you guys use when you're really boots on the ground of, hey, we need to have these conversations of helping you out.
Right. I really think it's following the Street Medicine Institute guidelines that was set back in 1992 and following that methodology. So for us, it's truly meeting people where they're at, not just physically, right? What does that mean is that someone doesn't want to come in, don't push them. Like one of the things we found about 4 years ago, we had 2 medical students, first 2 medical students come out, and this individual, Mr. P, we'll call him, one day he's a major, next day he's a lieutenant colonel, next day he's a full bird colonel, right? A lot of alcohol, been on streets 14 years. And he and another guy in his encampment, one guy broke his shoulders, popped out, right? And he walks up and they're intoxicated, and the two medical students ran to the individual and kind of like, hey, we need to take care of your arm. Take care of your arm. Is like, I'm asking you something else. That's not what I'm asking about, right? So for us, we thought that was the issue, right? Well, it is an issue, but for him, it wasn't. So you're not really listening. You're not really meeting them where they're at. So to answer your question, Joey, it's more in the sense of like, if someone wants to stay on the streets, that's fine. I've heard reasons of people want to stay in the streets. I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, for instance, here's a quick story. Guy says, so I'm supposed to get a job, make $1,600 to $2,000 a month, right? Pay $1,000 in rent with bills and utilities, and hopefully live on $200 a month just to expend, right? How am I supposed to live with that? And why am I doing all this to give to someone else when I can live here free in a tent?
Yeah.
Right? Right. And so that mindset really hit me a few years ago. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Our priorities are not necessarily their priorities.
They're correct.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I can kind of see that because it's, as much as we say that we want to, house veterans or house homeless or whatever else is kind of going through there, well, it's just, you're really not going to be able to pull them off the street, but it doesn't mean that you can't provide services for them that have been unable to do it. And I think that's kind of a really big thing. I mean, absolutely a huge thing.
And to add on to that, like we were working with Mill Hall for a while there, and they have a shelter there for about 25 VA for veterans, right, that are there. So for a while there, we were providing one-on-one services directly with them because they didn't want to go to the VA, and that's fine. People should have alternatives. Let's get that straight. People should have alternatives. The key thing for us is that we ran out of students and we ran out of money. Would it be really great? I mean, we don't need that much, you know what I mean, to provide service because we were bringing it to them every Wednesday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, at this time, I guess I'm going to do that plug, so to speak. A little bit of funding, oh my goodness.
For sure.
We can really save some lives, save more lives. So.
If you had a magic wand and can do anything you wanted, what would that look like?
Wow.
Yeah. And then open up
I know it's a loaded
Pandora's box.
question.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like work related?
You're going to pause this for a moment so I can think about this? And
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would like to do. I would like to get our lowest budget, right, taken care of, and then watch the numbers change in the city. Because we've done it with 10% of it. Last year, we brought in $32,000 total, right? I know how many lives we saved. I know how much impact we did, and how many therapy hours we did, et cetera, volunteer hours, et cetera. I would just imagine we had 10 times an amount funded, right? What could really be done? Because we already have the data proving what we've done.
Yeah. Let me reframe the question for
please.
you. What are the barriers that you see to working with homeless populations? I mean, obviously there's, funding, lack of resources or whatever that is. I mean, what are the big hurdles that you guys face when it comes down to actually treating people that are on the streets? Is it just having manpower to get on the streets? Is it, funding to get through or whatever that may be? Because, you see a lot of different solutions out there for homelessness, and hey, you're solving a quarter of the problem that's going through out there. But I'm really kind of curious, what are a lot of the big barriers of entry for those homeless people to actually get help? If that makes sense.
There are 3 barriers, and these are not prioritized as 1, 2, 3. Right. One barrier is the collection of data and sharing. Right? What that looks like. Who has it? Who has control? Who has power over that?
Like
right?
accurate data.
Accurate data. Thank you very much. Thank you for mentioning it. Yeah. The second part would be the boundaries of stepping on toes of other organizations. Somebody already has a case manager. How do we work with that individual, right? For us, we've done very well working with others. Like, no. You already have a case manager? We're going to be your number 2. Let's go see that person. Let's talk to that person. Let me help you with that, right? And initially, in the first few years, I'd show up and like, who are you? Right? Me and my ego, I'm Jay Bennett. Right. Right. And I'm here to help this guy walk through the system. So navigation would be the other part. But we've kind of broken that hurdle a little bit of what's going on. And the third barrier, finances. Yeah. Right. How can I say this? There are organizations out all throughout the planet, there are organizations out there that need to refocus how they're using their money. We all do. Even in our own houses, right? We all waste a little bit of money, right? We all waste trash, what food, whatever the case may be. If we're really tied down with these tight budgets, then we need to be more diligent, right? And serve what we have. And I think right now, because the nonprofit organizations dealing around with homelessness and social services has been so tightened down that everyone's stuck in a silo still, even though we're trying to work together.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's that $1 that keeps the other person in there and keeps the lights on, for crying out loud. So we're fighting for bits and pieces, and it becomes a struggle out there. So that's one of the other barriers for us as well, is that we're not. I've created this organization not to duplicate services, but to support those organizations and individuals with them. Like every organization I've talked to for the last 5 years, I keep telling them this: what can we do? In other words, what are you not doing that we can do?
Yeah.
For you to help, because here's what we got. Here's our disciplines, right? Here's what we got for you. What can we do together? So.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, and especially what we're trying to do here is really kind of the data collection and having accurate data, because there's way too much that I've seen, especially coming from government side, of data that's kind of being shared out there. I mean, it's pretty bare bones, generic on, hey, we're just going to blanket all these people under one house, and it's like that's really kind of not the difference at all. I mean, coming from somebody that's a 16-year-old runaway to somebody that's 25, just got a military service with other issues that are kind of going out through there,
or a 69-year-old who just started meth lab 2 years ago. That's a veteran. That's a Vietnam veteran. True story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wait, so he's how old and just started
now
meth?
He's 73.
And
he's 73 now.
And he started meth
at
that
68.
late in life?
At 68.
Well, and that's actually, you're bringing up
He was alone.
Well, and this is kind of a curious thing. I mean, you really don't have to say names or anything like that, but that's where I'm really kind of curious on some of the stories that you've heard on the street on exactly why they're there. I mean, because I've talked to quite a few people, and I know you've talked to a hell of a lot more on there, but every story, I mean, there's some stories out there that are just absolutely incredible. Like, I mean, just like, oh my God, this could be a book or, a movie or whatever it's going through, and you understand it, you're like, this is pretty incredible. I mean, you were just talking about somebody that was a colonel that was on the street.
No, he claims he was.
Oh, claims he was. Okay, claims he was.
It was delusional.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm sure we see that.
Now, there is one name that I can bring up, and we got permission to use him. He's on our Facebook page and et cetera, on our website, et cetera. And that's Robbie. He's a Navy vet. Now, he's a Navy vet, but doesn't get all full benefits because he signed up 3 days past due date to get veteran services. So it was supposed to be August 6th, I think it was August 9th when he signed up. So he missed benefits in 1981 by 3 days, right? So we did get him SSVF, get him housing, all that good stuff. But Robbie has metal in his neck, in his back, and in his leg. Oof. And he still survives. He's still out there. He's been housed twice now. Once we got him housed, second time he got housed with someone else. And they just moved again from Missouri to Kansas. Right? He's going through the battle. I just talked to him a week ago. He's going through the battle. Like, damn it, I'm drinking again. Right? I'm like, okay, I can't stop you from that, but why don't you do this? Why don't you have a glass of water for every beer you drink, brother?
Yeah.
Right? Slow it down, right? I have the same issue. We all have the same issue when we're drinking if you drink beer.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So have a beer in between to slow it down, because you're not going to stop right now. We went to detox 6 times with him in one place that you can't bring him back here no more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had to throw out a car mat. Because of poop.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm talking about, I love Robbie. I fired him a couple times.
Yeah.
And I still answer his calls. I can tell you this is the last time I fired him before he got housed. The last time was at, there was another vet at the hospital, Truman Hospital. He was there going to pick him up that day. Got the call, see that's Truman's phone number, because, after a while, the 404 number. And I picked up the phone, and it was Robbie. He's like, hey, Jay. I'm like, hey. I wouldn't have picked up the phone if it was him.
Yeah.
Right? Because I already I'm like, I'm done with you right now. And so he's like, I got hit by a car. I was like, damn it.
Oh, God. There you go.
I've been here 14 days.
Oh, wow. Well,
so, I can go on and on about him alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you're actually bringing up a good point that I've come into issues with helping veterans out, and you definitely see there, there's no like nice way of kind of going about it. I mean, you got to be firm and you got to be tough with these people that are coming and seeking help, because it's just, you can sit there and do it, and then you really become, just kind of a crutch for them to type of use. Enabler. Yeah, exactly. And it comes to the point where it's just like, hey, you either need to get your shit together or, or come back when you have that. And so, I mean, I'm sure you guys kind of experience that all the time on.
Well, I was going to say, like, I adopted this mindset a long time ago. Not everybody agrees with it, but I will only work as hard as my client or my patient will.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. Some people don't agree with that.
I do.
That's just what I have found works.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll put in the work, but you got to put in the work too. And if you're not going to, then I'm not going to either.
Yeah.
Was it quickly that you found out, oh shit, I could be enabling these people?
For me, mostly no, right? Because of my own background. I've also been there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, it takes one to know one, right? And so at first, I think I was a little bit too harsh.
Yeah.
Right? I think it was a little too harsh. And then I wanted to serve, but it was service. In other words, like, there's no emotions here. We have something to do. Right? You walk through the door, let's go do it. There's nothing emotional here.
Yeah.
We got a job to do. I've gotten a little softer, nicer as I get older. Right?
Not bad.
But the point, going back to Shannon, says that I work as hard as they do. You always got to be thinking, but for them in advance on certain situations, because remember, there's everything is lacking right now, and to build up so quickly, you need to have your hands in everything, right? So like housing, we got 3 guys housed in the last about month and a half, even though I just came up from COVID. I just got over COVID a week and a half ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Whoa, bro.
Yeah. Wait,
He's good.
Wait.
We're good.
The second time.
Holy shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bro,
That's another story.
I'm about to go drink bleach after this.
No, you're fine. It's not like an STD or anything.
Yeah, right. Well, you actually brought up something that I'm kind of curious about, was really kind of your background on it too, because I know you've had your experiences with it, and you just kind of alluded to it. So I'm kind of curious, like, what got you into starting street medicine and being where you're at?
Starting street medicine to me made just sense, right? It made sense off of something else. When I initially left corporate, it was not to start street medicine. It was to create a digital platform and work with Shannon on creating a mental health company. That's what it was, right? Over 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, right? That's what it was. It was very selfish, right? I saw a digital platform to create, working with Special Olympic individuals. I wanted to make the money, and that was that. The other part was making a mental health company, and because of my wife, and making things happen and us grow and become independent. As we went down that road together, street medicine came along, right? And then the other company joined, which came along, which now we're writing an RFP with the city to create that intake form and resource guide that can change things when it comes to those living in the bottom 5-10% of the socioeconomic system. So, for me, that's where it started off from. Now, that being said, it was a lot easier for me because I've been homeless, right? I had an addiction. I've lost a tooth because of it, right? So
I mean, just a little bit more. I mean, you were in the Army. How many
Air
years
Force.
were you in? Air Force, sorry. Air Force.
short period of time.
Yeah, short period of
Don't wanna
time,
talk about it
Germany
much.
and all
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
coming back through there, then homeless, drug addiction, and all that other type of stuff. So, I mean,
Not honorable, but let's go ahead.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a lot of veterans that I've dealt with in the past as well too. I mean, it just takes, it's just one little, dumb thought of being a 19-year-old kid that, is going to impact your whole entire life. And it's just like, you're a kid. I mean, that's where I've got a lot of issues on the way, UCMJ does, type of stuff. We're dealing with kids here on what we have, but that can be detrimental of like kind of getting out there to where it's just like, okay, well, now you're put into a more higher risk category of becoming homeless, of becoming independent, then also, I mean, that's going to affect your
Coming
jobs
back,
and everything else
exactly.
for a stupid mistake that you were done as a kid.
Exactly. And then coming back, being incarcerated, coming back. I don't tell this story much, so Joe, you're really pulling it out of me.
Yeah, there we go. That's what we're here for.
Being incarcerated, coming back, kind of like, having no real support system. like Shannon was saying, when I got back to America, and things crashed, and it didn't take long, less than a year, there I was doing meth. No support system, right? Trying to belong to something that I don't know. And being gone for like 8.5 years was really tough because now I'm also not only dealing with that, I'm also dealing with cultural shock.
Yeah.
Right, back in my own country, I'm dealing with cultural shock. I don't understand it. You know what I mean? I didn't understand it. So, going through that was also a challenge. You know, and fighting that was part of it. And I think that makes it easier for me to deal with street medicine now. Right, when I'm in the streets, I'm like, don't blow smoke up my behind.
Yeah. I mean, you walked it.
I've walked it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I
gotta
tell
be
people straight up like
crazy.
this, like, look, let me tell you something. If you're homeless in the desert, where do you sleep? Find an apartment building that has a pool. There's always a pool house. And you can be protected.
Yeah.
Right? And in shelter.
Yeah.
All right?
I never.
You know all the
I've
tricks.
never even
Yeah,
thought
you
about
know all the
You know what I'm
tricks.
saying? That's just one trick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's a good thing for
And every
you know,
freebie in Vegas, baby. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah,
go
well, and
ahead.
I
Really?
you know,
Yeah.
that's where it's really kind of interesting to me, especially how you're able to impact people, but also find that people have gone through there is because you lived it, you walked it,
yeah.
you know, you've seen it before of like,
Yeah.
hey, this is how things go. I mean, because you know, the one thing that I've learned, like you know, especially in homeless culture, is. It truly is a culture. I mean, it's
Yes.
kind of crazy how they share, how they do whatever else, and
There's
they
a
really kind of
hierarchy,
take,
right?
Yeah,
That as
and they
well.
really kind of take care of each other on that. Is that something you can kind of expound upon? On
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
So, like, most
really what the homeless
encampments-
culture is, because
Yeah.
that's where once again people
Right.
get stuck in the culture.
Right. So so for instance, in the metro, in Jackson County, a large percentage of individuals, I could throw a number out there, I'd probably be wrong, and someone might call me out on it, but a large number of individuals sleep on the streets or encampments, right, in tent cities. In Wyandotte County, not to knock them, but there's a lot of vacant homes. So they sleep there, and there's still some people outside, but the majority of them sleep in vacant buildings. In Johnson County, they sleep in their cars, right? And so you have 3 different cultures of individuals just to begin with in the metro.
Or friends or
really
family
even think
Or,
about
house.
that.
or friends and family houses
they're
surfing.
still considered homeless.
A large percentage of surfing, right? You're absolutely correct, Shannon.
Yeah.
Large percentage are also surfing.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, in some encampments that have been around for years, you have hierarchy. There's a couple DOD veteran encampments. They're run properly. They're clean, right? They've been out there 6, 7, 8 years, right?
Wow.
And they're just, that's the way they live. That's the way they want to live, right? There are some other encampments where you show up and there is a hierarchy. There is a protection, so to speak. Like, for instance, when someone brand new who's homeless, 18, 19, 25, whatever age it may be, but they're brand new, a veteran homeless person, not veteran in the military, will say, get them out of here, right? Take care of them. They will give all the resources for that person that just became homeless not to stay there. Not that they don't like them and don't love them, right? It's that they don't want them to, it must be that they don't want them to go through what they're going through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and they're
Right?
young enough
And
to
it's
do
like- it's
something
like- it's
about
like,
it.
wow.
that's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, why aren't you taking these resources for yourself? You know what I mean? It's like, no, they're the one that needs help. And so I've experienced that time and time and time again. I'm like, wow, different culture.
Yeah.
You know?
They've learned to live on so little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So have
being in the
This isn't about you. It's not about
in
you.
the nonprofit world, I'm pretty sure we're all used to that one on there. Pretty sure we're on that. But I mean, that's incredible to me that it's, you know, when I talk to people about homeless stuff, and there's reasons I don't get into it. I mean, it's just because there's great organizations like SMKC out there, St. Michael's, you know, other organizations that we know that help out homeless.
Yeah.
You know, and when I kind of talk about it, people have this misconception of what being a homeless person is. You know, it goes everything from, you know, I know people that, you know, look just like a normal human being, but they're couch surfing, they're sleeping in their car, they're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
They associate homelessness with, you know, that guy that's completely dirty or whatever else is on the street from there. And so that's where I think there's a lot of misconceptions, because I think this is just me, and please, you know, correct me on this. I think a large majority of people that are homeless are going to be more of those unseen people that you
That
know
is
you
correct.
don't associate with. You know, I mean, I don't know the statistics, but to me, it seems like, you know, that stereotypical homeless person is really a small percentage compared to the larger picture that's out there as well, too. Because if you're talking about somebody that's sleeping out of a car in Johnson County, well, they're still going to need services. They're going to still need help. And then, how can we bring them into the clinic of going through there rather compared to that stereotypical homeless person,
Right. So, the unique thing about this, we're talking about homelessness, obviously, and all that good stuff, right? Not good stuff, but stuff right now. Here's the shocker, right? We're going through this pandemic, right? We're going through protesting, etc. We're going through unemployment that's pretty drastic. And I mentioned this a few months ago, probably, I think it was April, end of April, is that homelessness hasn't even peaked yet. Homelessness this year.
Because of the pandemic?
Because of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Because people not being able to pay their rent. And the the evictions rates will start popping up now. People can't pay the utilities, right? Because once those organizations like, well, wait a minute, I can't kick you out now. They can't hold back forever.
Yeah.
Right? The epidemic of homelessness is about to boom.
A huge exodus of people.
Right. And we're talking about not individuals that had prior conditions for like mental health and et cetera that are primarily on the streets. We're not talking about those that, are working. The percentage of people that work, 15% of everybody that we deal with are not homeless, right? Are not homeless, and they're working. Even more than that are working. I mean, a regular job, right?
They just can't make
it happen. Can't make it happen. So, I'm really afraid. That's the key word. I am afraid.
Yeah.
I am worried.
Me too.
Right, about what's about to happen come this winter. It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, well, and it's
going to be ridiculous.
Weather. Oh
yeah.
My God.
Well, that's a question that I've got for you is really kind of talking about COVID of what's happened through. Okay, so what are some of the other things that we're seeing from the pandemic that's going on from here? Because one, I've seen a lot of issues with it. So one, me and you had this discussion, a few months ago. You reached out like, hey, you still have those masks that we were handing out because there were certain kitchens that weren't allowing homeless people to come in to get food because they didn't have a mask. And it's like, where do you expect these people to get a mask?
Right.
Type of things. And so, and that's where I've seen, especially with COVID happening now, and you just brought it up. So one, I've seen that. I've seen other of like, I can't afford rent and all that because I agree with you. I think there's going to be a huge thing.
Brand new population of people that are going to be homeless.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Well, and it's interesting that we keep coming back to kind of the correlation between homelessness and mental health because all of these individuals that are soon going to be losing their housing or they might have underlying mental health issues or they might not, but we're seeing a lot more mental health issues. Like when COVID started and we all had to stay home, it was novel at first. It was novel at first, right? It's not novel anymore.
Yeah.
People are not holding it together.
No.
Like they were 1 month ago, 2 months ago.
I kind of like it because I'm a little antisocial, and now it's getting a little wearisome on me. And I can share this with you. Mental health issues is based on a trauma, more than likely.
Yeah.
Right? Then there's
you see them because they come out because of a trauma. They might be underlying, but then a trauma brings them out to the forefront.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And she and I have gone back and forth with this over the last few years. And I can tell you this is that losing your home is trauma.
Yeah.
Or just the general everyday anxiety of
trying to catch
when am I going to
up.
lose this?
Right.
Or can I go to the grocery store? Can I send my child out there? It's like everyday thought process is stressful at this point.
Right. And so, once again, all of this is, I'm overwhelmed by it. All I can do is every moment, not even every day, every moment put my foot forward, saying for myself, right, with my own anxiety this morning, twice, right, saying, okay, well, I'm still going to open this place up. And when we open a place up, there's another issue.
Yeah.
The providers worried about themselves getting COVID, right? So, I got 55 gallons of hand sanitizer there. I've got masks. I've got gowns. But providers, Kansas, are not really sure. Are not really sure about, like, I'm not sure I can come help. Right? And I'm like, okay, we're going to do services in the parking lot. Right? So this COVID thing, COVID has really done a gigantic
disservice
to humanity. But then again, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But
Yeah, that's a whole
gigantic-
different other rabbit holes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's one thing that I've noticed. It's kind of, well, I mean, the way that I've seen this is kind of best of times, worst of times on what we have.
That was interesting.
Yeah, I know, right? The ghost is coming in.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and well, and that's where I've just kind of seen it before. Is
all
yeah,
good.
and
It's all
things
good.
are moving in here, so
It's all good.
And that's where we've had well, things that I've seen, kind of going back to the best of times, worst of times type of thing is. Really, you've seen the worst start happening, but you see really people kind of coming together to help support. You know, we're putting things in perspective now that, you know, food insecurity is a huge thing right now. You know, the living insecurity is a huge thing right now. But we were never really prepared to be in a situation like we are in today.
Right.
And so now we're finding it a lot more difficult on how do we provide these services while still being safe and really kind of, hey, we need you to come in here and kind of do this. You know, I mean, the mobile food pantries, you know, been going great and all this, but there's still things I think we're kind of sorely lacking on when it comes down to providing help for the people that can't help themselves that are out there. So, you know, I mean, that's where I think, or, you know, kind of coming into my next question for this is, you know, what are some of the things that we could do better to support those organizations or support those people on the street by? I mean, really, it's kind of education on just understanding what's going on out there. I mean, that's my whole thing.
Yeah, I'll add this. We thought initially when COVID, the pandemic hit, and I remember it was January, and then February 29th, that Saturday, got some calls with other street medicines about what's happening. And there's like, America's not ready for this, right? And these are all physicians that are great in what they do. Mm-hmm. They don't have to worry about their jobs because they're already independent, right? And so I was like, wow, I shut things down. But anyway, moving forward, we thought that because of COVID, we thought it would hit the homeless population pretty severe, right? Not being able to wash your hands because every place is closed now, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's closed. You can't go wash your hands. Right? You can't use Wi-Fi. Everything's closed. You can't wash your hands. You can't take a shower. It's hard to get services. It's just everything's shut down. And so we thought there'd be an epidemic there, and there really wasn't. Not just in Kansas City, but nationwide. The numbers did not hit like we thought they would, right? So I don't know what all that means. I can just take an assessment of saying, well, maybe because they live outside, right? Now, those in shelters, that's a little different, right? So moving forward, excuse me. What was the question?
Yeah, I mean, really kind of talking about the COVID point and where it's kind of going through, because actually I was kind of going towards what you were speaking upon was, you know, really people thought that COVID was really going to have a huge impact in the homeless side, but it's actually in the suburbs and not really kind of in the homeless side of it. So there's always been kind of, well, it kind of goes back to this whole misconception of homelessness, what it is, and that stereotype of, you know, these guys are all diseased whatever
and
people, or, you know,
case.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's just people have the mentality of, you know, they're lepers, they're, you know, whatever else. And that wasn't the case at all.
No, it's not the case at all.
Yeah, but then, that's not the case at all. But then everything else shut down. And now it's like, okay, well, now it kind of goes back that, you know, they weren't serving food because they didn't have masks to get in there. Well, where are they supposed to get masks to go through there? Or, you know, what's kind of going through there?
Right.
So we're causing more problems.
Keep your hands clean.
Yeah.
Where are you going to wash them if everything's closed?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah, I know. Absolutely. Yeah.
This is
Right?
man, this is fucking mind blowing. No, honestly, because it's scary because I never thought like, oh, everybody else is going to be homeless too,
Right.
And everybody's just we're in a shit show right now. Man.
Yes, sir. And so, you know, to go to answer the thing about what we can do, I have no idea. All I can do is move every day forward into pushing the mud forward. That's all I can do.
And I think what you said, I mean, really just coming together, like organizations coming together, sharing
That
resources.
has been a big thing in Kansas City.
People
Really
coming
good.
together, neighbors coming
Yep.
together, whoever it is coming together to have more resources for the person that
Right.
doesn't have resources.
does the city provide any of that at all?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you this: the community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, and the city. Still waiting for Jackson County, but in the city has really come together to make a difference. Now, obviously, politics move at their own pace and speed, right? And we would like it to move a lot quicker and faster. One, secondly, funding from federal and or other municipalities, it's kind of like government municipalities, it's kind of hard to get that money quicker to where it's needed to be. And secondly, because this pandemic is so fluid, things change every day. For instance, I had a proposal for a encampment, which I think we're still going to do, a controlled encampment, having tents, right? Controlled, people staying there, kind of like separating things like that. And that's changed because now we reopened, right?
Yeah.
We reopened too quickly, obviously, right? We opened, and then that whole game plan changed. Now I can tell you this. I still had that whole program set up, right, with the KCPD Fire Department, with the Downtown KC Council, with our individuals that we can take 25, 40 people, put them in a controlled environment with their tents so they don't have to come inside, right, which is better for them anyway than being inside where the COVID can actually play around with them, right, and having services for them right then and there in a controlled environment. Now, one of the problems with the city and some other entities that help them is that there was a failure in St. Louis. Well, I know who did in St. Louis. Of course, that's why it failed, right? But in Tampa, I went down there. I saw it. I spoke with the city as well as the people running it. That's how you run it. The way we're doing San Diego, that's the way you run it, right? So we can't look at something and say, oh, that failed. The only one you see is failed, so that's not good, right? That's called prejudice, right? So you have to really take the data out and look at it. So my thought is that I'm running on a tangent because I forgot to eat today, so excuse my ADD. But my thought is that I think the city, the community-based organizations, faith organizations have really come together to make an impact. We just have to wait for those in the power for policymaking as well as funding to move forward quickly.
Well, and that's where a big issue that I have, too, is, they were so quick to, hey, we need to reopen the economy, PPP loans and all this other type of stuff. Yeah, those PPP loans were open for nonprofits as well, too. But then it was just like, okay, you're so worried about getting the economy back up and running. We're kind of pushing this other stuff to the wayside that it's kind of like, oh, now, maybe we should have thought about that a little bit ago, And it kind of goes back, which, I just keep thinking about this, was the pandemic that we're going to have of people becoming homeless,
right.
after this. Because, a thing, too, that I want to reiterate, with SMKC, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, it's, the help is available out there, what's going through. Because if you're on that borderline of, I need to go see a doctor, I need to see a mental health provider or whatever else. But, you could be on that cusp of that you were a bartender or a waiter or whatever else, that you've been, fired or furloughed or whatever else that's going through there. And you have really kind of no clue what to do. Because I can understand how stressful that can absolutely be. And, not having anywhere to go, it's just, there are services out there available for you.
I can tell you this, for the last few years from other bar owners, 4 or 5 of them in particular that are colleagues and friends, and I say friends, people that work there, we've gotten people off the streets to work there in our kitchens, right, to work there in some service capacity, and they've been very helpful with getting our people into employment. Also with understanding that bus routes end a certain time, so to let them go before normally let them go, so they've been very helpful on that end. What we've done and what I've done in also in the same aspect is this. Your people don't have insurance, right? So every month there is someone at a restaurant or bar that is a server or in the kitchen that we help, whether it's prescription, identification, whatever the case may be, or mental health services. So this is ongoing, and that's something I didn't mention before because everyone thinks street medicine is, hey, you're out there in the streets all the time. No, it's more than that.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than that. Here's the thing about it. Medicine or medical or healthcare is more than the pill you put in your mouth. It's more than the therapist helping you readjust your thoughts, right? It's housing, you dig? And so these are the things that for me in my mindset, what healthcare is not just a pill.
For sure.
Not just a pill.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you on that, and I really like the model that you came up with, really housing these different organizations, with there. I mean, we're going to have our Operation Frontline down there, certain days to help out the veterans that are going through there. Caregivers obviously being there, with the mental health
Care Clinic is with
Care
us.
Clinic.
So we have an FQHC qualified healthcare center there. We're happy about that.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of what I wanted to get into because I've always been intrigued. This isn't just like you guys just going in and doing stuff. You guys are actually like bringing in providers. I mean,
Oh,
there's
yeah,
medical
man.
students. There's a lot of different stuff
yeah.
on there. So
Right.
that's, this isn't just,
No.
Jay
Right.
sitting there. This
Oh, no,
is
no,
actually,
no, no, no. I don't want to sit there by myself, because if I do, I'm going to close it. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
But World Outreach Foundation has been providing medical and dental services in this city every week for 7 years.
Whoa.
Right. And now they're moving in with us. But obviously the COVID thing is kind of, scaring everybody a little bit. Most of their providers are retired medical doctors. So obviously that also is another layer for them of worry. But to have them partnership with us to provide dental and extractions and dentures and et cetera for individuals, so when they do go to work, they can feel better about themselves, or if they're in pain, to pull that tooth, because that's a pain you don't want. I'd rather have a broken bone in my hand or my leg, right, than that. And basic training, by the way.
Yeah.
Broken leg, broken foot, hairline fracture on my foot, still ran and did under 14 minutes, Mom.
Nice.
Anyway, moving forward, right? But having one of those key partners with us is for us, just for me anyway, is a really wholesome look at attacking the issue, right? These are partners or people that we either worked with before for many, many years, interchanged, whatever, like each other, et cetera, et cetera. And I really think that this community center is not street medicine, KC, okay? It's not my center. It's not our center, right? It's a center to collaborate, to work together. And, if an organization is not doing their weight, that's when I have a veto,
Yeah.
right? Get out, right? Or, hey, what more can we do for you?
Exactly.
Right? Or this organization needs to be doing. This organization needs more. I need to go and find even more way to support them, because here's the thing about it: Street Medicine KC does not do outreach like they used to, and we won't, because there's so many other organizations doing it well, like Care Beyond the Boulevard. They are simply running the show out there when it comes to the medical side beautifully, right? So why duplicate that, right? We'll supplement that, but why duplicate it? So the thought of the center is to provide a holistic kind of concierge medicine where a bunch of organizations, from small community-based faith organizations to federally qualified healthcare centers to even the VA, right? Hoping Wayne's listening, you can come by and visit, right? and to be there and open up. So this Saturday, we're going to be there in the parking lot, probably have some hot dogs, some hamburgers, burn them up, and providing a meal there, and hopefully be able to come by and, join us. See what's going on.
Where can everybody find you on social media?
Street Medicine KC, our Facebook page. Our website is streetmedicinekc.org. Our Instagram is Street Medicine KC. Twitter, which I don't use much, is Street Med KC. You know what I mean? So you see the theme, right?
Yeah, right. What's going on there?
Right.
We're going to blast this out to everybody.
Thank you.
Too.
Yeah, and so as we kind of wrap things up here too, is going back to Jay's original question that we had earlier. What is it that the public can kind of come in and help you out with? Because I know one of the barriers that I've seen in the nonprofit world is we're all competing for the same dollars when it comes down to that. When to me, it's like what you're doing is you're creating a facility to house multiple organizations in there to where we can feed everybody, or funding wise with everybody that's through there, but also getting you guys off the ground. So what is it really that people can do out there to help support you guys besides donating funds, getting grants, that other type of stuff? But is there anything else that people out there, if they want to get involved, what can they do to help you out?
As a nonprofit that's been growing for so long, we need it all, obviously, right? Or even as someone who has it all, want it all too, right? So, the thought for me is that come by, see what it is. And a lot of the volunteers that have come through the last few years, I've simply asked them, like, well, what can I do for you? I'm like, well, what do you see? Right? Because the whole thing is that, I'm the motor behind it, right? I don't necessarily want to be the rudder. Right, so the thought is that come along and see. If you want me to give you direction, I'll give it to you. But the biggest thing I tell even our students that are under Shannon, the LPC students, or ML students that are under Dr. Lohr, or the medical students or residents that are there, and I keep telling them, what do you see? Bring you know what I mean? And it goes back to old corporate, working in Fortune 50 is that you have this cookie cutter situation of hiring someone. Here's your description. That's BS.
Yeah.
Right? Hire the person, or bring the person and ask. They already know what the job is. That's why you're there, because you saw it. You already know what what your discipline is. Then what do you want to do? What do you want to add to this mission, right? So I maybe the concept for me is maybe too much that I leave it open to others to bring themselves and bring what they think that could be added to this, more than just taking control.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what I've done here is just come down here. If you see a need, fill the need,
That's right.
type of things. And that's where it's kind of helped me gravitate to where we're at today with After Action Network. And, it's the same thing that I say is come down here and see where we can figure out a need and spot that we can go from there. Right. So, we need your help that's on the streets out there. I mean, these guys are doing great work on the streets and really helping vulnerable populations that are coming out there. And just like we discussed, there could be another huge wave of this new homeless.
There will be. They're not could. They're not could. There's not a could.
It's not a could. Yeah. It's going to happen. And so, that's where we need to gear up on, how we can help these individuals out. Kind of coming back is, you might be on the streets, but how can we get them off there relatively quickly where they're not sleeping in their car or just couch surfing or whatever else? How do we put them in a position, set them up for success? Right. I mean, that's really kind of where we're at on that.
Correct.
So,
everybody, thanks for joining us. And as always, love you and protect your neck.